Ideally, you want to read the kind of things that get asked in the CAT exam, but you may not be at that level today. One day a week, you will sit down and attempt 4 passages in one go. Verbal reasoning, vocabulary, grammar, RC and VA. 16 questions from reading comprehension. But you will sneak in one section test. Now, at this juncture, you may wonder, will I really be still going through a grammar book? Will I not finish it? Welcome to MBA Wallah English. This is a channel where we work with you in order to ensure that you are able to move closer to your dream of getting into a top B school in the country. In case we are meeting for the first time, my name is Vikrant. I'm your personal coach for all things related to VARC on this channel. Not only that, I also talk about the mental aspects of preparation. I focus on communication skills and quite a few strategy areas. So you and I will be working very closely together for quite a few significant things. Now, this plan has been made for a beginner. So if you're starting your prep today, you will find it very easy to follow through. On the other hand, if you have already been preparing, in that case, feel free to customize it. Okay, so the part where I talk a beginner about what all to do in this particular week, in case you've already taken care of that, you can jump over to the agenda of the subsequent weeks. And why 120 days? Well, because we have approximately a little more than 120 days between today and the CAT exam. And in this session, I'll coach you through it in its entirety. So let's dive in and move. So basically, I think of our preparation as farming, where you sow a seed, you watch a plant grow, and eventually this plant turns into a tree, right? So how do we ensure that we are able to reach that level starting from here? So I typically talk about 4 things or 4 phases. So phase 1 is the foundation. Okay. So as the name itself suggests, your foundation focuses on what? The foundation. The basic things that you need to be aware of, the basic abilities that you need to carry in order to build a fabulous building of your scores and percentiles. Phase 2 is where you go ahead and master the syllabus. So foundation is where you know what all is there and the basic things that you need to carry. Thereafter, the next step is to figure out the syllabus, go through it and then master it. And once you've mastered the syllabus, you may feel that things are absolutely great, absolutely terrific, but what you feel may not necessarily be the truth. And that is why in this process, it is important for us to repeatedly stand in front of a mirror. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a mirror is nothing but a test. You write mocks and those mocks tell you whether you have actually mastered the syllabus or not. And finally, the fourth and the last thing is, once you write those mocks, you analyze it, and on the basis of that analysis, you take effective corrective action. So whatever the mock tells you, whatever the mock points out as an area of improvement, we go ahead and start acting in order to fix that. And the strategy needs to be such that it definitely goes on to take care of those things. So rest assured, if you are somebody who can go through these 4 things, you will definitely go ahead and get a great percentile. Okay. So now at this juncture, I can talk about different phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But the truth is, what do we have? We have 4 months with us now, right? And in these 4 months, a lot of you come to me who start at this juncture and they want me to be very precise. They want me to talk about what exactly it is that they should do in order to get a great percentile in VARC. So instead of talking about phases, let's make it a little more concrete. So 120 days, we have 4 months. We are talking about 16 weeks. So I will take it fortnight by fortnight. I'll talk about a group of every 2 weeks and what exactly it is that you need to do. And I'll keep on elaborating upon the plan as and when required. So I would request you to start here. So make sure that you read for 25 minutes every day. Now, there is something that I would want to add to it. Now, when we say read, the question here would be, read what? See, ideally you want to read the kind of things that get asked in the CAT exam, but you may not be at that level today. So I want you to read those things that are adequately challenging for you. So ideally, I would want you to read texts where you are able to understand around 70-80% of those, and the rest of it is something that takes you beyond your comfort zone. Now, I do not know which text will be at that appropriate level for you, but a good starting point is newspaper editorials. Read them and see whether you are able to understand 70-80% of the editorial. Now, what will happen? You'd go through it and you'd realize that, oh, I'm able to understand it very comfortably. I'm able to understand it all. Then switch over to things which are more challenging. So how about reading articles from New York Times, Scientific American, The Guardian? If you find yourself comfortable there as well, you can move over to Eon essays. On the other hand, if you find the newspaper editorials challenging, and I typically recommend that you read the Hindu or the Indian Express, in that case, you take a step down and find something which is easier. Maybe reading India Today. And in between these two, I can also recommend a couple of other things, but you get the drift. So number one, it should be adequately challenging, and number two, there must be a broad variety here. So when I say a broad variety, you notice the CAT exam asks us about everything in the world, and not about, but the passages can at least be borrowed from anything under the sun. So you need to bring in that diversity. So do not restrict yourself to a single source, a single subject matter. Make sure that you keep reading passages from different areas, passages from different sources, and if possible, try to sneak in some books in between. And another important point is at least 25 minutes a day. So this is the bare minimum that you need to do. After that, whatever spare time that you have, make sure that you do pour it into reading if RC is not your strong suit. If that's not your strength area, you would want to go ahead and maximize this further. Okay, so that's one. Apart from that, it is very important for us to practice passages. So make sure that you go through 10 RC passages every week, where I want you to attempt one passage every day for 6 days a week. And on the 7th day, you can choose that day. It can be a Sunday, it can be a Wednesday, we don't care. One day a week, you will sit down and attempt 4 passages in one go. So it's not that you will attempt 4 passages, but you will spread them across 4 sessions, 2 sessions. No, you will sit and attempt 4 passages all together. Okay, so that's how you would go ahead and go through these 10 RC passages every week. Then take out some time for verbal ability, where I want you to start with best summary of the paragraph questions. So in these 2 weeks, I would expect you to go through somewhere between, I'd say 50 to 100 questions, where you'd learn the approach, and thereafter you'd go ahead and practice, and then you learn from your mistake. The idea is that you need to go beyond 70% accuracy, preferably 80% accuracy. So when you reach there, you can move over to the next area. A lot of people would take 1 to 2 weeks. So I've put it here for the first 2 weeks, in case you think that, hey, this is a question type that I'm very comfortable with. My accuracy rate is above 80%, and you realize that after 10 days. In that case, what do? You switch over to the next bit that I've recommended on the next slide. Okay, so you can keep adjusting it according to your pace. So that is about best summary of the paragraph. Beyond that, if you are not very comfortable with VARC, I'd recommend that you go ahead and work on vocabulary every day, 15 to 30 minutes. In case you want to know how, you can just Google for a vocabulary strategy session on our channel, and you will find it here, either on this or on our sister channel where we use English to teach you. So vocabulary for 15 to 30 minutes. And this is the thing that some of you will probably look at and wonder, why is Vikrant saying that I need to go through grammar? So pick up a grammar book. So 15 pages of a grammar book every day. So which book? Any book, yaar. Any book. As long as it is something that is recommended to high school students, we are absolutely good to go. Okay. So 15 pages of that grammar book every day. Now, why grammar? Since you have that question in your mind, then see, normally when I coach people for the CAT exam, I tell them that the entire syllabus of English can be divided into 5 modules. So those 5 modules are verbal reasoning, vocabulary, grammar, RC and VA. Now you notice that it is a pyramid. So what does it tell you? It tells you that things which are below are required for things which are above. So for instance, you want to become good at RCs. Ensure that you become good at verbal reasoning, vocabulary and grammar. If you lack here in these 3 areas, that can affect you in RCs. Similarly, when I talk about verbal ability, say a parajumble question, a lot of people, in fact, I'd put my neck out and say around 70% of the people who do not get VA questions right, even after attending classes, they don't get them right because they are suffering in reading comprehension or verbal reasoning or vocabulary or grammar segment modules, right? So that is why it is important for us to take care of all of these things, where verbal reasoning is practically the foundation. Vocabulary and grammar both are knowledge based areas. RC is skill based. And that is why that this insistence on you reading every day. And then of course, verbal ability, which is a technique based area where you attend classes, learn the right approach, but then you can go ahead and utilize that right approach only when you have built abilities here. So that is why I ideally want you to work on vocabulary and grammar as well. Okay. Then switching over to week 3 and 4, you'd still continue to read for at least 25 minutes a day, 10 RC passages. But instead of verbal ability, now I'm saying that let's switch over to verbal reasoning. Now you may look at it in isolation and say, why verbal reasoning? But then you know that when it comes to the CAT exam, we get these 16 questions from reading comprehension. It's not a formula. I mean, this is what we've been getting for the last few years. Out of these 16 questions, depending upon the year, somewhere between 6 to 11 questions are reasoning based questions. Which means that if you truly want to master these 6 to 11 questions, you need to master reasoning, a particular type of reasoning called verbal reasoning. And within that, I'd actually narrow it down even further and say critical reasoning. So in critical reasoning, I want you to start with this question type called identify the assumption, and then move over to strengthen the argument and weaken the argument. All 3, particularly these 2, are asked very frequently in the exam, and both of these require a foundation of assumptions. So normally you would spend around 7-8 days on assumption and the remaining 6-7 days on strengthening and weakening the arguments. Master this and then switch over to these 2, and thereafter the exact same 2 things. So vocabulary and then grammar, once again 15 pages of a grammar book every day. So I'll just keep adding it. Okay, so 15 pages of a grammar book. So that's basically week 3 to 4. Now, irrespective of where you are, make sure that you stick to it for the first month. But after this month gets over, start making your own strategy. Do get informed by what I'm sharing, but then, after spending these 30 days, you will realize your strengths and weaknesses. You'll realize that there are some areas which are easy for you, some areas which are difficult for you. And I'm talking about not just VARC, DILR, Quant. And by then you'd have a realization of which section you need to pour more efforts on. And within each one of those sections, what are those areas that require special attention? And because that can vary from individual to individual, student to student, you would want to customize it on the basis of the exact challenges that you're facing. So I am suggesting certain things, but make sure that you keep adjusting them. For example, I'm saying read for at least 25 minutes a day, but you can adjust the sources. You can adjust for the difficulty level, and that can help you a lot. And now we are increasing our practice passages. So this time around 15 RC passages every week. Once again, there needs to be at least one day where you sit down and attempt 4 passages together. The remaining 11 passages, solve them whichever way you want to. Okay. But do ensure that you are attempting at least one passage every day. 4 on a day. So those 10. So the other 5 can be spread out any which way you want. Then verbal reasoning. Now that you've gone through assumption, strengthen, weaken. In these 2 weeks, I want you to focus on identify the inference and thereafter the remaining question types. So logical flaw, paradox, similar structure arguments. So you have these 4 question types to go through in these 2 weeks. Once again, I typically advise that you devote around a week's time to inference, if needed, maybe even more, and then switch over to the rest of the question types. And even there, if you want to, you can skip resolve the paradox for the time being. But I generally do not recommend that. We do that only if you are running short of time. Okay. Then vocabulary, and then 15 pages of a grammar book every day. Now, at this juncture, you may wonder, yeah, will I really be still going through a grammar book? Will I not finish it? Well, chances are that you will. If you go through 15 pages every day, then typically a grammar book would have around 300 pages. So I actually want you to read that book twice. So 600 pages at the rate of 15 pages every day. What will happen now? How long will you take to do that? So this is around the juncture, 5th, 6th week, when you would have read that book twice. After that, you can move over to practicing some mixed bag grammar questions if you're targeting the OMATs. But this is the bare minimum that we want you to go ahead and go through. Then week 7 to 8. Once again, read for at least 25 minutes a day. Keep on bringing in those adjustments. If possible, go beyond those 25 minutes. Same 15 RC passages a week. But now, in these 2 weeks, we are going to focus on parajumbles. Normally, most of the people would require 7 to 15 days for parajumbles. But the possibility is that you may end up with this topic you may be through with this topic in say 10 days. So you can either extend your verbal reasoning into the 7th week if required, or if you are done with parajumbles sooner, you can switch over to what comes next. Vocabulary will continue, but grammar will stop here. So instead, this is a place where I would want you to bring in one mock test every week. And in case you are somebody who's already started his preparation, you can bring it in sooner. Okay. Maybe start writing a mock every 10 days if you're already done with a significant chunk of your syllabus. But if you are starting today, this is the week 7, when you would start writing a mock test. And it is not about just writing the mock. Okay, it is about analyzing it as well. So go ahead and analyze it very thoroughly. And on the basis of that analysis, you can then start adjusting your preparation. So for instance, after going through the mock and after going through all those passages, you may realize that there is a particular subject matter that bothers you more. Now that subject matter could be philosophy, right? Or let us say you are a science student, that subject matter could be economics. You are an arts student, that subject matter could be science and technology, whatever it is. If you have identified a trend, if you have identified a pattern in your practice that, hey, I struggle whenever I get a passage from this area, then make sure that you start prioritizing reading of that area here. And a pro tip, the subject that bothers you, just check. Does that subject happen to have specialized vocabulary? Does that subject happen to have its own jargon? If yes, then it is much better to read an introductory textbook of that area. And if not a textbook, a lot of people have also written some very nice, easy to read introductions. It's better to go ahead and read one of those things because that will make you figure out all the technical words rather easily. So you would actually start there. So read non-fiction, especially from areas that bother you. That can happen after the analysis that you've done over the course of previous 2 months. You'd continue attempting 15 RC passages a week, and in verbal ability, the focus for these 2 weeks is going to be paragraph odd one out and paragraph completion. And after that, vocabulary will continue, and you'd still keep on writing 1 mock test every week. And even here, when you analyze, start looking at your accuracy rate across different verbal ability question types. Also focus on the different question types in RCs. Start becoming aware of a pattern in the mistakes, that hey, normally do you get something wrong when it belongs to one particular area or one particular question type? If yes, then you would want to focus on the ability required for that particular question type and start working on that in isolation. And which question requires what kind of ability, all of these things are taken care of in great detail in our classes. In case you are not studying with me in a batch somewhere, you can go ahead and ask those questions in the public forums that we have here, and we would love to address that for you. Then week 11 to 12, read non-fiction, once again, especially from areas that bother you, 15 RC passages. Now that you've gone through the entire syllabus, revise the concepts and approach of verbal reasoning. So there are these 7 question types that you've gone through. Make sure that you revise them, make sure that you go ahead and put in some mixed bag practice, correlate it with your accuracy in the reasoning based questions of RC, and then check whether you're getting those right or not. In case you're getting some reasoning based question wrong here, you would want to emphasize on that particular variety in your verbal reasoning revision at this juncture. So that will take you around a couple of weeks. Then continue with vocabulary, and then now switch over to writing 1 mock test every 5 days. Okay. Then week 13 to 14, more of the same. Most of these things will be the same, but now that we have done with the revision of verbal ability, you would now verbal reasoning in the previous 2 weeks. Now you would switch over to verbal ability. So you'll review your approach, your concepts of best summary questions, para jumble, odd one out, para completion, sentence placement. And even here, now that you have practiced a lot, you've been writing these mocks, you can go ahead and figure out your accuracy rate there in verbal ability as well, and you can emphasize the area that you're struggling with the most during your revision. And thereafter, vocab, and then the same 1 mock test every 5 days. With that, we move towards the business end. 2 weeks to go before the CAT exam. So week 15, I'm going to treat them separately. More or less the same thing. But since your revision is over, you will sneak in. So you'll reduce the number of RC passages, but you will sneak in 1 section test. And while writing this section test, I want you to experiment with your approach. So you notice when you approach a test, there are times when you attempt VA first, there are times when you attempt RC first, there are times when you follow a mixed bag approach. So whatever it is, just try and see what works for you, what does not work for you. By now, I want you to have a broad idea of how you want to approach the section, depending upon what kind of questions you find there, and then go ahead and start attempting it along those lines. Then vocabulary, 15 to 30 minutes. And in this week, I want you to write 2 mock tests. Okay. And finally, in week 16, I personally want to cut down on my load in this particular week. So I would want you to continue reading. I would want you to continue attempting passages. And I'm asking you to attempt passages because RC is a skill. And when it comes to skills, the problem is that we rust when we rest. So when you rest, you start becoming rusty. Your skill starts becoming not as tight, and therefore it is important for us to continue that. Then vocabulary, and just 1 mock test if you want to. And I personally do not like writing any mock test within 3 to 4 days of the actual CAT exam. So if you are planning to write something, fit it on a Monday or a Tuesday. don't write anything later. On the other hand, if you prefer writing tests, if that is what brings in comfort, you can add more mock tests here. No harm, nothing wrong with that. I'm just sharing my personal preferences. And after that, you will have your D-Day, which is going to be 30th of November 25. So all these mocks that you've written, all the practice that you've put in, all the analysis that you have gone through would have informed your strategy by now. You would also have figured out some kind of test taking strategy for yourself. You must have also identified some 2-3 different strategies for 2-3 different scenarios that you may encounter in the exam in the VARC section. So on this day, just take a deep breath and go ahead and roll that plan out, and you'll be done. And then what next? Why do I have a week 17 here? Well, the truth is, even after the CAT, you and I will be working together, because you will be tuning into this channel for an analysis of the exam and the likely cutoffs that we would expect. Okay, and thereafter, after taking maybe a break of 2 days, at the max 3 days, we will move back to working on our OMAT classes and the other management entrance test mocks, because then we have SNAP to appear for, ZAT to appear for, maybe you are also applying for CMAT, Maharashtra CET, so we cannot afford to slack. So you and I will work from week 17 on as well, but I thought that I'll at least guide you until the CAT exam, and then more on all these other things later when you are done with the CAT. So that's what I brought for you today, and I want to leave you with this one thought. Like a river carving its path through stone, let perseverance sculpt your destiny. So no matter what happens over the course of next 16 weeks, you will persevere, you will keep putting in the effort so that you are able to go ahead and deliver your best. And that's what matters. So that's it from me today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a great time ahead.